All right, I'm very excited today to have really just an incredible musical talent with me in the building, Daniel Caesar. Just really happy to speak to you today. Welcome. How you doing? I know you just flew into LA. You were over the pond for a little bit. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm feeling good.
I've known about you for a really long time. You put out great music that most people out here are aware of. And you just released an album recently entitled "Never Enough," and "Never Enough" evokes so many thoughts about what does that phrase mean. Is it unsettling? Is it motivating? What does that "never enough" mean for you? Because it's a really provocative title for an album, but I feel like there's so many implications there to unpack.
I really like the fact how open-ended it is. Generally, when you hear that, it has a negative connotation generally, but I look at it in a positive. Well, it depends on the day, but generally in a positive sense. It's really about there is always more to be done that can be done. And you can either look at that half glass empty or half glass full, but it's never enough. It's like I just realized I'm a very ambitious person, and so I'm never satisfied with anything that I achieve or I acquire, and I always want more. I'm a product of my environment. I'm a product of the country that I was born in, and the society that I come up in, and the culture that I'm a part of. Life is long, so now I have something I can fill my time with, which is trying to consume more, acquire more.
So it sounds like from your answer that
Yeah.
"never enough" is a place you want to stay in. It's a place where you're kind of yearning for more discovery. Is that fair to say, to like kind of get the most out of life as you can, and kind of is that a fair description?
It's just honestly where I'm at right now. You know what I mean? I'm young. I still have a lot of things I want to do. But I mean, that would be cool. Maybe one day I'll arrive at a place. I'll look back at these days and think to myself, wow, I was so foolish. Like I should have just, sat there and been comfortable with everything that I had. You know what I mean? It is kind of glass half full because it's never enough and it is enough at the same time. You know what I mean? As long as you're still breathing, then it's enough. In life, you're trying to survive. You're striving to be yourself in this world that tries to make you anything but that.
And I think it's also rare to kind of recognize that so early. I think a lot of people that wind up getting to this point, it's like it's the product of a lot of time on earth, a lot of time kind of making mistakes and, realizing goals and so on. I'm sure you've kind of had a combination of those things, but also relatively earlier than most people. So I can imagine that also kind of
Yeah.
plays into Never Enough. But yeah, you made a point of having chess at the forefront of a lot of the promotion for this album, pre and post release. And I saw like I don't know if it was a story where you were playing chess with a friend, and currently even within like Spotify, we see the image of you playing chess. And I kind of was wondering, how did chess serve as like this medium of expression for you? And
My father had taught me when I was young. When COVID came around, yeah, I just started it was like one of the few things after I had watched all the TV I could bear and I had, played all the video games I could bear and nothing was fun. I would just play chess all day. And then I stumbled onto Queen's Gambit, obviously, and that was kind of like that thing. It's so crazy how that one piece of media kind of changed the whole world. It definitely like chess saved my brain over quarantine because I didn't do very well in quarantine. I find it to be like a beautiful collision, like the perfect fusion of math and art. It is math and strategy, but there's an art to it.
I've always kind of considered chess to be this combination of like art, sport, and science. And you're kind of
Yeah.
identifying that too with like the math, but then the art, the canvas of it in a way. And there definitely like a ton of parallels, but I feel like people draw different parallels based upon where they're at in their own kind of mental and personal life. And so, what are the parallels for you?
Yes. Some of my favorite games are the ones, that I've played are the ones like after the computer will tell me that I might have made like 3 blunders and like 2 mistakes. but I knew what I was doing the whole time because you can see how the other person is playing, and so you know what things you can get away with. You can make plays that should be blunders, but you know that person isn't going to catch it. You know what I mean? So it's also like game theory, like social science. Chess is about like working smarter, not harder. I'm a big believer in that. I want to use my mind and I want to use it efficiently. You know what I mean? I don't even have a high school diploma. Like I admire people that I deem smart, and I want deeply to be like them. You know what I mean? And I do and say dumb things all the time. Like, I just like the idea of that with your mind, you can master that matrix, and you can like, no one can touch you because you know what to look for and you know how to move. Even with this album, you know what I mean? I did it the way I had to do it in my heart. Very inefficient. You know what I mean? It's a very expensive album to make. I went over budget, but what I gained from it, what I benefited from it is understanding. And it's from all the mistakes that I made along the way.
And you were really introspective through the album. Like, there were so many points in Never Enough where like you were speaking about women or people that colored your life, about relationships that maybe could have been or should have been, and then also simpler times in your journey where like things were different than they were now. I guess what I was wondering was like, what have you learned over the last few years, kind of putting that all together into the album? Because it felt like there was like a journey being had where there was highs and some lows and some introspection, and it felt like a lot coming together.
I think what I've learned, and I still find myself making the same mistakes over and over, don't get me wrong. And it's not like I learned like I've necessarily even totally fixed it, but this is my journey, and no one can communicate for me. No one can communicate my ideas better than I can myself.
So much of what is happening when you release music and you have a large body of work that you're sharing with people, it's ultimately like layers on top of layers of vulnerability if it's coming from a place of authenticity. It felt to me too that there might have been ways in which the production on the album reflected the season you were in, because like, and the changes that were happening, because it felt like there was some like somber tones, but also exciting tones, and like it was very flavorful. Was that fair to say, or like was that a conscious decision?
Completely unconscious, but you're absolutely right. And it's also like I played about 80% of the instruments on the album. Like all those emotions are just honest because it's like 4 years of life, which is also why it's so long. Because I always said I would never make an album more than 11 songs. But it's like, you know what I mean? I went through so many different things in these 3.5 years, and I felt like it needed to all be expressed. And it was much longer. I cut it down as much as I could. I felt like a mad scientist, I was drawing all over the walls. I was, like just experimenting as much as I could. Like I made a set of rules that I was going to abide by for this project. Like I had this new sound. When my brother came home, my baby brother, I was showing him what I had done. He was listening to it and he's like, yo, this is sick. But I could see in his face something was wrong. And he looked at me and he said to me, it sounds like you aren't having fun. It sounds like you're toiling away at this. It doesn't sound like you're having fun making this music. I was like, no, I'm not. I'm literally dying.
So you were like 100%, 100%.
Yeah, I was like, no, I'm not having fun. I'm dying. But I think this work is brilliant. I think both ways of going about it are valid. When he came home, we were working together. We started working on new stuff together, and I was having fun. You know what I mean? And I enjoyed it. And, like Valentina on the album came from me and my brother working together.
Good job,
what I mean?
bro.
Like,
good job, bro. No, that was excellent. Excellent work.
Though as much as I can get kind of like a broody, tortured, just all some pretentious tortured. My friends always remind me like all your biggest songs are the ones that you've written about being happy, like being in love, being, like positive moments, which is great. But my biggest songs aren't my personal favorite songs, but it's like, it does have a big impact on the world. If I'm working by myself, it'll turn into a super dark, depressing album, which I think is beautiful. I love that. but having people along the way keeps it makes me more optimistic, and so I make music that's probably better for the world.
Yes, it's funny you mentioned that because I was just thinking like, what are the songs that are maybe like the most popular or critically acclaimed or whatever, and like I guess like it would like best part or get you.
Yeah,
There's a levity there. Like it sounds like it's like that the people that come into focus for you and like contribute like your brother, they're creating this levity that allows you to kind of ease up just a little bit, which like can like straighten you
yeah,
physically and metaphorically. And like now I'm sitting up a little bit different. It feels if this
yeah, exactly. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
like it just do you have like a chess style or personality? And do you think it's like consistent or wildly different from your off the board personality? Because I've heard all types of answers here. Like, do you know kind of like who you are when you're playing the game or like what you're striving for?
I'm definitely overtly aggressive playing
I felt
chess.
that just because you said it was math. And I was like, man, this thing is like
Yeah.
math. And like to me, there's like two types of chess
Yeah.
players in a way. There's like the math and science type, who's usually more tactical and all this. And then there's like the chess philosopher that has like a ideology or a dogma about how they should play.
I just like that I can identify that math is involved, but it's definitely a feeling, but I think it also identifies, and I don't know if this is for all people, but I feel like it identifies how I am in my heart. I'm like covertly aggressive. You know what I mean? But like in my day-to-day life. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite chess
You know.
piece? Like, do you sit there thinking like, oh no, like the bishops are? And I'm conveying my bias, and I like bishops, so like, so it's like I like, we learned the bishop and the knight are both worth 3 points, but like really
Yeah.
bishops they tend to be a little bit stronger than the knights in most situations, but some people have a bias for the knights, and so like
I
they're
love the night.
tricky, man. They're tricky.
Tricky, they're
Yeah,
sneaky. That's what they because one of my favorite feelings is a fork. If I can catch a good fork or a three-way fork, there's nothing.
yeah,
Yeah,
no, I feel you 100%. Chess has this ability to like capture folks' attention for long periods of time without distraction. And I feel like you've kind of experienced that in music with like if you're to be as talented and as you are with your music, you have to definitely have invested a lot of time, but also been in situations when you've allowed it to totally envelop you, where you just where the focus, everything else is kind of faded away. Like, and there's times personally
yeah.
where like if I'm playing like a chess game that's super long, I might not when it's only when I'm done with the game do I realize I'm hungry. I have to use the bathroom.
Yeah,
I am
yeah.
tired. Like, but like in the moment, you don't notice any of that. I kind of wondered what is it like when you're in that space in music?
If I'm making something, I'm like, this is hot. I know where I'm going, and I'm just bam, bam. Like if I'm in the right state, I'm literally running from instrument to. I'll sprint around the
You
studio.
will
You know what I
sprint
mean? I
around the
get so
studio.
excited. Manic. I got manic. Anything that makes me manic, I love. It's really just chess. Honestly, like chess, especially over COVID, man, it would be like hours. Sometimes I would be like, all right, I'm done playing chess, and then I'm not. I'm not even saying like I'm not joking. That whole remember in Queen's Gambit when she look up at when she get high and then she look up at the ceiling and she see the chess
Yep.
moves. Like if I've been playing on my phone for like 4 hours straight, I would look at the TV and I would just be like thinking about like if I did this and then
Some people say like chess is like this royal game. Um, and like I was just thinking about your name, like Daniel Caesar, and I was kind of wondering like what the origin story behind that. Like I didn't know if like there's something with like Caesar going on, or like it just made me think like could you potentially tell me how you came on that?
that was simply Daniel, like Daniel in the lion's den. You know, he had given the gift by God to interpret dreams and he was kind of like in enemy territory, you know, enemies beset on all sides, but he was able to figure things out and like make it out of that situation alive and in like highly favored by the king. And then Caesar is just Julius Caesar. I was also feeling very powerless at the time, you know what I mean? And Caesar was a powerful figure and I that's the name I needed at the time.
Well, I've really enjoyed this. This has been super fun for me. Really just a privilege to hear your perspective on your music and also your chess journey and the parallels there. Just really interesting, and I think that in many ways you're also just yet another example of kind of the parallels between like chess and music and chess and life, and just how there aren't really like anyone can get involved in this game and then draw their own conclusions. And that's, I
Yeah.
think, the most beautiful thing is like anyone can get involved and then like regardless of where you're at with it, you're picking up stuff and perceiving stuff differently than others, and you might attribute value to something that someone else, speaking of garbage, doesn't think is anything meaningful, right? So yeah, and then you hang on to that, and then you evolve, and then you change your opinion. So then you you learn how to neutralize knights, and you're like, man, like they're not actually that crazy.
Yeah.
So
I know I might become a bishop guy now. I didn't know knights were so easily
so no, I'm
neutralized.
tripping.
This is crazy.
Knights are great, but it's just funny.
No,
It's funny how that works. So so thanks again for sitting down and talking with us, and yeah, and enjoy your weekend.
no, thank you too, man. Honestly, I needed this today. I feel a lot better than I did before this call. So thank you.